Welcome back, my friends, to the Hippie Moms Podcast. I'm so glad you're here. And today we have Lynn Shulte. I'm so excited you're here, Lynn. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I love any opportunity I can to share what I know to help moms better.
Oh my gosh, it's so great because moms, that's how we learn best. Is from mothers and women that have this wisdom that you're not gonna, get. There's so many books out there. There's so much information. And, we used to live in small communities and tribes where we had we had
elders
so much
around. Yeah, I know. And
they knew the way.
Yeah. And we are so disconnected from not only our family, but communities. And most importantly, we're disconnected from ourselves a lot of it. And what the message I want to get across in this podcast really is how to come back home to yourself, because your own inner knowing, your own inner wisdom is our best guide in everything.
Oh man, I believe that so much. And what's beautiful is when we travel so far from that, when we start to connect home, we know it because we feel it. We're like, oh yeah, this is what she's talking about.
So important, but yet it's so common too.
Yeah.
And I think, especially around, my specialty is pregnancy and postpartum recovery and pregnancy prep, and then the recovery afterwards. And one of the things that I really try to encourage all of my clients, no matter who's coming to me for what, is to help them to come back home and feel what's going on in their body and let their body guide them. And one of the most powerful places in our human body that I know of, especially for women, is our pelvic space. And there are just so many different things that could have happened to us, or the way we were raised, or just so many interactions in the world, in our society at large, that disconnect us from that place of power that really is our home. It's that pelvic space. And I truly know from my own personal experience, my life changed when I reconnected and started to learn to live in and from my pelvic space.
Wow. I mean, what does that mean?
I know, right? So the pelvic space is a source of power. So in Chinese medicine, in lots of different other cultures around the world, the three dantians are known as the three power sources or centers in our body. And it's our head, our heart, our womb space are those three dantians. So there's special energy centers that we all have. And most of us, I would say the majority of the world is living in their headspace, is living from their headspace. And then there are some people who are very connected into their heart space and learn to live from that heart space. Yet I have to say the majority of the people that I see in my practice, hardly anyone is really truly connected into their womb space, into that pelvic center of our body. And what I've learned over the years in working with so many women is that I feel our head will take us where we think we should go. Our heart will take us where we feel we should go, but our womb space will take us where our soul longs for us to go.
That's beautiful.
And ideally, we have all three centers in our body fully connected and fully guiding us. Want our head and our heart and our womb space aligned so that we're moving in harmony in our life. And I have just found that when I have all three connected, and I like the juiciness, our womb is the most incrediblest organ. Is that even a word, incrediblest?
Well, it is now.
It is today. I made it up. But it's an incredible organ that women house in our bodies. I mean, if you think about what this organ does, it actually is the portal that allows souls to come into this world.
Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful.
Before I started studying this, I had never really thought about my womb being that portal for life. I mean, I know babies grow there and they come in, but That's the soul's entrance into the body, into this world. And for those that don't have babies, it's your creative center too. And that creative center, I tell you, when something percolates up within me from my creative center, it is so juicy. It is so right on that it's just so powerful. And so many of us are just so disconnected from this space. And I really feel that if you want to be as embodied and as empowered as you want to be in your life, it requires connection into your pelvic space and learning to live what I call the bottom of the bowl, the bottom of the bowl. And that's like in your pelvic floor, everybody. We all have muscles down there. And those pelvic floor muscles are supportive. They're help us to have great orgasms. They help us to allow the baby to come on out for birth. And so many people are living in the top of their bowl, so at the top of their pelvis. And the difference is, let's say you're someone and you're trying to get someone else's attention. You're trying to talk to someone, or you're trying to get your kids' attention. And if you're in the top of your bowl, you can scream till you're blue in the face and your kids don't respond. But what happens is when you learn to come down to the bottom of your bowl and you are in your body and you are living from the bottom of your bowl, all you have to do is whisper and your kids hear you. It's that different.
Who doesn't want that?
Right? Yeah. And so when we're frustrated with our kids and they're not doing what we want them to say, come on down into the bottom of your bowl and be present there in your own being, and then talk.
Is that what you're really leading us to, is presence? And because how do we connect to this space within us? Like, we all want the 1, 2, 3. I know it's not always that simple, but can you just bring us, a little bit of wisdom in how we actually connect to this part?
Yeah, I want to give credit to Tammy Lynn Kent, who wrote 3 amazing books. They're Wild Feminine, Wild Mothering, and Wild Creative. And they are all about inhabiting and working with the energy in the pelvic space. So there's a ton of exercises in Wild Feminine to help you to unpack everything that you've taken on in this lifetime from your mom, from your ancestors, from your experiences, because all of that lives in our pelvic space. And what I know has happened to way too many women is that they have been abused somehow, some way, whether it's sexually, emotionally, or physically. And the analogy that I like to, that helps to explain this so well, is think of your pelvis, and that bottom of the bowl is the front door to your home. Your pelvis is your home. Your vaginal opening is that doorway, the front door to your home. And let's say you had a negative sexual experience. Let's say you were abused or raped, or any of those awful things that is way too common in our society. What ends up happening, and this is also true for just maybe a parent that was emotionally abusive. So any kind of abuse, it's like you go to the front door and you open it up and there's a scary monster there. And so you leave the front door open and you run away and you abandon your pelvic space, and the front door is open. And so now you're way more susceptible, and everything and anything comes in, and it's like you don't have boundaries. You don't have, you don't have a good sense of what you really want and what you really need in this world because you've left your home. And so the work is in clearing out whatever is being held in that space. Our pelvic space is a storage house of all of our unprocessed emotions and traumas and events and things that have happened to us throughout our lifetime. And they just get held in this pelvic space. And so there's a beautiful pelvic sweeping exercise that you can do. Tammy writes about it in the Wild Feminine book. But you just visualize your bowl. You visualize the energetic pelvic bowl, and you just see what you notice. You may get a picture in your mind's eye. You can just kind of feel it in your own pelvic space if you can connect into your body. And the goal is to sweep out what's no longer serving you, to let go and release anybody else's energy that might be in that pelvic space, and reclaim the bottom of your bowl so you can shut the front door.
Mm-hmm.
And then you are hanging out in the bottom of your bowl. And the visual I love to help my clients get is you're laying in a hammock in the bottom of your bowl. And you can lay easily on the left side. You can lay easily on the right side because there's different parts. And Tammy talks about this in her book, The Wild Feminine, the map that allows the different areas of the bowl, and what shows up in them tells you what might be going on. And this is the work that I love to do, love to help my mamas to reconnect in. And when I first learned this, Becky, I was just helping my clients balance and clear out their energy space and reconnect back into their pelvic space. And I would only see them one time. And they would come, a friend of theirs would come in and said, "Oh, you changed my friend's life. That's why I'm here." Yeah, it was like, I wasn't trying to change someone's life. It was just balancing their pelvic energy space and helping them to reconnect back into this space. That is what changed their life. And there is so much power, so much wisdom, so much medicine for us in our pelvic bowl when you really learn to understand it, connect into it, and learn to work with it. And Tammy's book, The Wild Feminine, is an excellent, excellent resource for that. And I know a lot of people listening in are mothers and moms or want to be moms. And her next book is The Wild Mothering. And that is about preparing your body for birth and the birth process and how to help heal what may have happened to you during your birth process. And so that connection and that wisdom of connecting into your pelvic space is really what should be guiding us, or can help guide us in the labor process. It can help guide us in our mothering process. It can help us to know what's right. And that sense of knowing, that sense of like, this is what needs to happen, is so much stronger when you're fully, fully connected into your pelvic space. And you can work with what's showing up in there for you. Like the bowl, when you learn to visualize and work with the bowl, it tells you how you're showing up in the world. It tells you whether you're balanced or not. It tells you if you're over efforting on one side more than the other. Because one side, the left side, represents our feminine energy. The right side represents our masculine energy. And I can't tell you of anyone that I've actually worked with that is like, "Oh, yeah, I'm balanced in my bowl.
Right.
I know how to cultivate energies on both sides of my bowl and work in a balanced way." It just isn't, it isn't an awareness within our society.
Mm-mm.
Yet there's more and more practitioners who are learning how to do this work and work in this holistic way in our pelvic bowl and work with that energy. And so it's just, we can stay on this and just talk about this, Becky, but I know we also talked about prepping for birth and then recovery after birth.
I know.
I know we like to keep these things shorter because I think you and I could talk for hours on this.
Well,
where do you feel called to go?
we've already decided we're going to be doing at least 2 podcasts. Maybe we need to do 3, because I really do feel when we focus on this connection, because regardless if we're preparing or healing, we need that connection. And we feel a lot of shame, and you're right, we live in our heads. And so to really dive into practices, or even just the awareness that is something to do, because most women don't even know that this is
right,
that they have this power within them that's so untapped.
Absolutely. And so here's one thing here is a quick exercise that you can do to see if you're fully connected into your pelvic space. Okay. And there's several different ways to do it. Is that one is you can imagine a color in your body and allowing that color to drain down from your head, down to your neck, to your shoulders, down into your chest. And can that color reach all the way down to the bottom of your bowl? Or does that color stop at a certain point in your trunk? So that tells you, if it stops, that tells you that you have a block in your body system that's not allowing that color to come down further. Another way for you to do this is that you can place your hand like on your clavicles. So right on the clavicles, and you can see, can I feel my hand? Can I connect into my hand as it's touching my body? And how does that feel? And now if I move my hand down a little bit on my chest, do I have that same connection? Or did I lose something? And you can put it down at your diaphragm area. And do you still have that same connection, or does it feel different? What about on above your belly button, below your belly button, and then right above your pubic bone? So does that connection to your touch stay the same throughout your entire body? If it does, then you're fully connected into your pelvic space. Another way to tune in is to see, is the temperature the same? So does it feel warm here? Does it feel warm here? And does it feel cold? So if you go from warm to cold, that's another sense that you have a disconnect and a blockage to fully connecting into your pelvic space. And usually, and I don't want to, pathologize this block, because we want to embrace the block.
Yeah.
Okay? Because the block has helped you in the past. Mm-hmm. It has protected you. It has done something for you, and that's why it's there. So the first step to healing any sort of block in our body system is to become aware of it and to honor it and just let it know that we know it's there. And then this is where you can explore on your own and see if you're able to dialogue with it and see what it has to say and to help it to help to bring greater understanding to that area in your body. Mm-hmm. Bring greater understanding to what's that block trying to do for you? Mm-hmm. What's the job of it? And it may have been, that as a little girl, a neighbor or someone said something scary to you and you or maybe they did something once, but it created this block in you and it's there. And that block is from that younger perspective of you. Mm-hmm. And so can you bring an adult perspective to that situation and help that little girl that felt she had to block herself and know that, I'm not there anymore. And that I'm here. I'm like, help that little girl to see you as an adult and to see if that feels safe, and is that feel safe enough, and then just see what happens. Because our first instinct, whenever we have a block or whenever we have something wrong in our body, our very first instinct is to get rid of it.
Yes.
Just want it to go away. That is the exact opposite of what really needs to happen for true healing to happen. Now, I'm not saying that you have to go in and dig and re-experience everything that happened to you that created that block. That is not healing either. That can actually be more traumatizing to you. But what you need to work in is in your present moment, present day awareness of that block. Can you just sense into it? What do you notice about the sensation of that blockage in your body? What comes up for you? And just see if you can work with the sensations of it and see if that can shift it. And then as you are becoming more attuned to the sensations of that block, see if anything pops in, that memory, of feeling, and use your adult self today to help you to have a different understanding of what actually happened in that moment, or give words to the littler part of you that experienced that, and let that little girl know that, hey, you're here with her, and that you actually, look, I'm here today. We survived that. You're okay.
Yes.
And help bring that little girl along. So now these are a lot of different counseling techniques. And so I just offer it as exploration for people listening to this podcast. And if you're able to do it on your own, great. But some of you may need support. Some of you may need someone else to help hold space for you so that you can access this information yourself. We are not meant to heal on our own. We're meant to heal in community. We're meant to live in community. And there's so many women out there that feel like I just worked with someone today that felt like she had to do it all on her own. Yeah. And she had a block on the left side of her pelvis. And that is that I have to do everything on my own. There's nobody here for me. I don't have support. I need to do it. I need to prove to everybody that I can do this. And that's just an imprint.
Right.
That happened that you took on because you felt you had to in order to survive. Like, yes. That's the thing that we just need to understand, is that everything that we did, every reaction in our body, whether if you were being abused, you went into a freeze response, your body did that to keep you safe, to keep you alive. And we need to honor that response within us. And so many women feel disempowered because they froze. And I want them to know that freeze response is really, it kept you safe and it's all good. We are animalistic in our nature. Yes. Animals do this all the time in the wild in order to stay safe. They play dead.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were in a situation and your body felt like it needed to play dead in order for you to survive, that's what it did. That's why you collapsed. That's why you froze. And so if you can just honor that. And now there are bigger traumas that I really would encourage everybody who's dealing with, bigger traumas. Please don't try to do this on your own. There are a lot of practitioners out there. There's trauma therapists. There's somato-emotional release therapists. There's somato experiencing practitioners. So there's lots of different providers out there to support you in this healing. And I do have to say, if you have done cognitive behavioral therapy, that's talk therapy, that only heals you to a certain level. That is dealing with the problem from the mind.
Right.
Remember, we have two other heart centers in our body. And people are so surprised when they come to work with me, and I do intravaginal work. So I work in vaginally without speculums. I just use a gloved finger to work with the tissues in vaginally, and there's muscles in there, there's organs, there's fascia, and all of that needs help and support to be able to function well, especially after birth, especially after a trauma. And doing that intravaginal work can really help someone to reconnect back in to that pelvic space and find that healing. And I just want people to know that I'm surprised. So many people are surprised when I do the intravaginal work that something comes up and they're just like, but I've dealt with that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you might have dealt with it from the mind level,
Right.
but the issues lay in the tissues and they get held there.
Yes.
And until you heal from a tissue level, there still might be some impact that event has on your life, on the way you show up in your world.
I really feel called to thank you for that. Was so beautiful. And to be honest, this conversation is so different than I thought it was.
I know, me too.
Which I love. Like, you're just
Right?
speaking to my heart here, because I really believe this connection to our womb and our pelvis and the root, like that energetic root of who we are, because we've been so disconnected, can really heal our life in such incredible ways. It's even hard to even imagine. But what are some of the quote unquote symptoms that you see women suffering from that have this disconnection? I mean, like when you said the bowl, I'm like, what about a leaky bowl, right?
Yeah.
What are some things that maybe common, or things that you see that are kind of showing us to exactly what you're talking about?
Well, there's the physical stuff, like you're talking about stress incontinence, urinary incontinence, like things like that. Pelvic pain. Sometimes pelvic pain or low back pain is a signal from the body to say, hey, stay connected to me down here. There's something in here that needs attention. Okay. So pain doesn't mean always that there's something wrong. Pain sometimes is a signal to help keep you connected to a part of your body that needs love and support. And so I've had multiple pains in my body that I'm a physical therapist. So I know how to stretch, how to heat, ice, ibuprofen. I know how to strengthen it. But when I do all those things and the pain persists, because usually when you do some of those things, the pain shifts. The pain will lessen. The pain will get either worse or better. And that tells you that it's a physical pain. But when you do all those things and the pain stays the same, it's not a physical issue. It can be an emotional issue. It can be an energetic issue. It can be a trauma issue being held in the body. But it's your body's way of saying, hey, there's something here that I want your attention. I need your attention down here. I need your love and support. And again, our first reaction whenever we have pain is, let's get rid of it.
Yes.
Make it go away.
We totally miss the message of the pain.
Right. Yes. Yes. Sometimes pains have messages. Sometimes they don't. So I want to, clarify that. But if you're doing everything that you're doing and you're still in pain, that to me, I dive deeper. I want to get into more of your emotions, into more of the energetics of what's really going on in your body and what are we noticing. So I'm able to work with people at a distance, and I tune into my body as it's your body.
I love that.
And I can sense and feel what's going on an energetic level in your body. and to see where there might be blockages or issues going on. And then I work with you in that way. And it's super, super powerful to just know like this, that pain is sometimes just a messenger. Pain is just trying to help get your attention, that there's more going on. And I really, really, really want people to understand that trauma response in the body is real. Trauma can create pain.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that there is something wrong in that area. And medicine, modern medicine, is looking for the wrong in the tissues. And so you can have all this pain and you can go get MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, and everything shows up normal. And it's that the pain could be from a trauma response. And so there's so many examples of this. One that comes to mind is a mama that I worked with who had a C-section. And she came to see me 5 years after her C-section because immediately after her surgery, she started having pain in her C-section scar. And she went on to have 2 other surgeries to explore the area to see what was going on to cause the pain. And when she came to see me, and I was able to tune into her tissues, and I just put my hand on her tissues, and my body gets this like visceral response in me when there's trauma in there, when there's like the body's not happy, it just kind of ugh inside of me. And I can feel it. I can sense it in the body that like, this is trauma in here. And as I tuned in, you know, I had my hand on her scar and I was like, okay, tell me how was that for you? And I forget the details of her C-section scar, but she was traumatized. It was too much, too fast, or she wasn't explained, or so many times it's like, if you don't get this baby out, you're going to have a C-section. Well, that's a trauma right there. Your baby's heart rate, the monitor starts going down and, they're telling you, oh, we got to get this baby out right now. Yeah. Well, subconsciously, that your baby's not doing okay.
Yeah.
Or you crash, or if they have to put you under, do the C-section, then there's a part of your body that feels like it died. You go unconscious.
Yeah.
And that part of you thinks that you died. And the more work that I do around trauma, the more I find this I died belief.
Interesting.
Or my baby died, or my baby's going to die.
Oh.
And that's what's being held in the tissues. And so we have to shift that limiting belief, and then the tissues can let go. And so I'm always, looking to see what happened in the birth, what created this pain in the first place. And for her, it was one session and her pain was 90% better.
Wow, I believe that.
In 60 minutes.
Oh my goodness.
And it just made me sick to think that her body underwent 2 more surgeries when it was just a trauma response that her body had to the initial event. And guys, doctors don't get this.
No, they don't.
They don't get the trauma response. They also don't understand scar tissue and how scar tissue can cause problems either, because they look at your tissues and go, well, you're healed.
Yeah.
They don't look at the mobility of those tissues. Tissues need to move. And if they can't move, it causes problems.
Right.
And so restriction can be on a physical level, meaning like I can't straighten out my arm all the way. That's a physical restriction. But there's also an energetic restriction, whereas I can't get the energy, I can't sense the energy flowing down to my hand. That's an energetic restriction. Yeah. That needs to be dealt with in a completely different way. And modern medicine just does not acknowledge the whole energetic piece because we can't research it. It can't be, modern medicine is dealing with research that is 10 to 20 years behind what we're finding in clinical practice.
Wow.
And the research is just so limited.
Yeah.
You can only research one little piece.
Yeah.
We can't separate that out in a person. So it's just modern medicine is so limited when it comes to helping people. I mean, it's great. It keeps us alive. Don't get me wrong.
Absolutely. You're in a car accident, you break a leg, accident, amazing.
Right. But more chronic issues and chronic understanding, and so much of trauma is just not fully acknowledged in that world. And so I think, what I want everybody listening in is to understand, and I want people to know there are small T traumas that a lot of people don't recognize as trauma. And there are capital T traumas where you're like, yes, I was traumatized here.
Yes. Yes.
And those small T traumas can cause just as much problem as those capital T traumas. So some of the signs to know that you're traumatized is if you've had a C-section, you can't touch your C-section scar. You just wig out. Like you just don't want to touch it. You can't connect into it because you were traumatized. You want to disassociate and disconnect from it. So if you can't fully touch your scar, now there's a difference. You can touch it, but it feels numb. That is a physical issue, okay? Because they cut nerves. A numb feeling to the tissue is normal.
Okay.
Nerves got cut, but I'm talking like, ew, I don't even want to touch my scar. That's a trauma response in your body. Another trauma response is that if you think back to your birth and you always go back to this one moment in time and you keep remembering that one moment over and over and over again, that could be there's something there. There's something that happened in that moment that your body's trying to help you to come back to. You can heal it.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
And then the other is like, if you try to tell your story, you get all emotional. That emotional response is a trauma response as well. Those are some things to keep in mind. There's lots of other little ones, but those are the big ones that come to mind right now. And, pain can be a trauma response too, like the example I just shared with you. So there's, and to me, in the body, trauma feels like the body's holding its breath. In the pelvic space, whether you had a vaginal birth or a C-section, it's like the pelvis has gone,
yes,
it hasn't exhaled. It hasn't gone, and that's what's stuck in the nervous system. So there's a nervous system response and there's a tissue level response in your body.
Wow.
And there are some practitioners out there that talk about pain science and understanding pain from a cognitive perspective. And sometimes that is super important and helpful to understand that the pain of childbirth, a lot of times when we feel pain, we think something's wrong.
Right.
But pain of childbirth just means that things are opening that haven't opened and don't know how to open. And so it can be a little challenging for it to open, and that's pain, but it's a normal pain. So that doesn't mean something's wrong when you experience the intensity of a labor contraction. Okay.
So beautiful.
So understanding the difference between those is really, really helpful and important. But understanding that, when you've never been through something before, you don't know. You don't know the difference.
And you don't have anyone leading you, especially when you're in a hospital.
Well, so then, so what do we do if we go have a hospital birth? They hijack a very physiological, natural process. What everybody here listening in needs to understand is that OBGYNs who practice in a hospital setting do not understand physiologic birth because they have never experienced it. They have only known interrupted birth.
Yes.
Where they have done interventions because they feel their approach is that birth is something that you need to be saved from versus birth is something that you needed to be supported through.
Wow. That was amazing.
And so that's their that is their lens. That's their focus is what's going wrong and how do I intervene versus if you understand physiologic birth and what's really supposed to happen, you are allowing the process to happen. You're only intervening when there's something is not going right, which is what doctors do, but they're coming at it from a different lens.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and how everything is set up. I mean, it's going to fail because the whole system is set up wrong.
Right. Right. Exactly. And while I understand, I tell my mamas, I'm like, if you're going into labor, please don't suffer. Like you are not meant to suffer in childbirth. Okay. So we never want someone to get to that point of suffering because that's trauma.
Right.
Leading up to that, there are things that you can do, and understanding the process of birth can help you to understand where you're at in the process to support yourself through it. But if you are, so that's why I want people to don't go to the suffering, find the skills and tools and have the support of a doula, have the support of a midwife, someone
Yes.
who understands physiological birth
Mm-hmm.
and is willing to support the process of birth. Because here's one of the things that blows my mind. In a natural physiological birth, the uterus spends all its time contracting to open the cervix to 10 centimeters. Well, the cervix, the muscles of the cervix is a muscle, and the muscles have just worked their butt off to try to get that cervix to open to 10 centimeters. Well, sometimes it takes a break. It rests after it gets to 10 centimeters. And
Mm.
it gathers up its strength so that it can then now have the energy to push the baby on out. And so many times in the hospital, I mean, and that break can last an hour or two
Wow.
because the uterus needs, and the body needs to regenerate some
Mm.
strength and some energy to be able to then push the baby on out. The hospital, you are on a clock as soon as you step into that hospital. You
Right.
are on a time clock that if you're not progressing, they're going to start intervening. And one intervention leads to another intervention, leads to another intervention, which usually leads to a C-section.
Yeah.
And so we need to, they don't understand to wait. And so they'll start giving Pitocin after you get to 10 centimeters dilate, or they'll have you start pushing and you have no urge to push.
Wow.
It's like there is a physiological ejection reflex in a natural physiological birth that helps to push the baby on out, but they're not always patient enough to allow that to happen.
Right.
And so if you're listening into this and you're pregnant and you're going to give birth in a hospital, you need to understand that you have the right to ask the questions. What happens if we do nothing?
Mm-hmm.
What happens if we just wait?
Yes.
Is baby doing okay? Am I doing okay?
Yeah.
What happens if we just wait? What are my options? What other options do I have instead of doing what you're suggesting here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so, but the problem is with that is that a birthing person should not be thinking.
Right. No.
Because our animalistic brain, our reptilian part of our brain is what helps you to birth the baby. The body knows how to get the baby out. The baby knows how to find space to come on out. And we want to allow that process to happen. As soon as you start thinking, you go to a different part of your brain and your reptilian brain shuts down.
Mm.
So we want to help you to stay in that. That's why a lot of women, you hear about women going off into the caves,
Yeah.
going out into the woods to go birth on their own.
Mm-hmm.
They are going and trusting their own bodily process to make sure that baby can come on out.
Oh my goodness. This is so beautiful. And I really feel, Lynn, that, you are one of the brave souls paving the way back to humanity birthing as we are created to.
Yes.
And this conversation, the awareness, this wisdom is so beautiful. And because this has been so great, we're going to do a series on this. And the next one we're going to talk about is prior to birth, birthing, and what to expect, and talk more. Because I really want our listeners to have these resources so they know what questions to ask. They're educated and they can, again, create and cultivate that connection to their body. I think that's just so important here.
There is. And so today we talked about how we can connect in and what we can do to really try to listen to our body, because that's a big, big part of the labor process. However, there are things, and why some births are so smooth and some take forever is really what a person brings in their body to the birth. That's what I want to talk about in the next segment.
That's what we'll talk about in the next one. Oh, I'm so excited. So in the meantime, because we will publish these just a little bit in between, have some space in between, where can our listeners find you?
Yeah. So if you're interested, I'm happy to work with anybody, anywhere who wants to do a Zoom healing session with me. We can do it over Zoom. We can heal birth trauma. We can heal any trauma that you've experienced. We can help you to reconnect back in to your body. And so that can be done. And my clinical practice is Center, so CENTER, forbirth.com. And that you can just fill out a form and I'll get in touch with you and we'll set up a time to make that happen. So that's probably the best way to get in touch with me. I do have a YouTube channel of lots of different videos. I do have two practices, or two businesses. So the Center for Birth Healing is my clinical practice. I also have an educational platform, which is the Institute for Birth Healing. And that's more for body workers, people who have licenses to touch the body. There's a lot of great online courses and live courses that I teach to licensed body workers. So if you know of a licensed body worker that is working with you and you're postpartum and you're not getting better, please have them check out my holistic healing of the holistic treatment of the pregnant or postpartum body courses. They'll learn more to be able to help support you better. So I do also have a directory of practitioners who I have trained on my Institute site. So we'll put that link in the show notes as well.
I'll have all of these links in the show notes.
Great. So you can see if there's anybody nearby you that has trained with me. I don't have all my students in that directory. We're revamping it and we're going to get all of my students put in there so that you can find the right person to support you in your healing, because we do offer a more holistic approach to the body.
This is so great, Lynn. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait until our next conversation. So my friends, in the meantime, all the links and locations to where you can reach Lynn are going to be in the show notes. So don't hesitate. Go there right now. Continue on your journey. And then we'll be publishing the next podcast soon. So we'll have a beautiful series with Lynn and so much more to talk about. So, all right, everyone, we will catch everyone on the next Hippie Moms podcast. Bye.